everybody. It's Dr. Cindy with the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and we love to address all things health-related, spiritual, physical, emotional, financial. Pick something that has to do with your health. We talk about it here on the Positively Altered podcast. Today is really very special for me because this is where the teacher becomes the student. Our next guest was in my classroom when I was teaching in the internal medicine diplomate program. And he is a flourishing professional that is doing great things for his patients. And we are going to go down the path today to talk about how stress can really affect us in a negative way. And maybe throw out a couple of ideas you may not have thought about before about your adrenal glands and sobriety. So we're going to take a quick break, listen to a couple of important sponsors, and then we are going to be back with my next guest.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? And we're back. Thanks for hanging out after a word from our sponsors, because you know they're important to me. We are back with, I can't believe it, like a student of mine, right? Like, oh my God, I'm so old. Dr. Brad Campbell, I'm so excited to have you here today.
So great to talk to a fun old person.
Oh, you did not just say that.
But old's relative, right?
I am a fun old person. It's okay. You know what? Old is so relative. I remember when my kids used to think like, being 40 was old. And now I'm, in my closer to 60s and my 50s. I don't like to, 56, right? And now the kids think that like 70 is old. And I think like 100 is old. And it all just, so what's old, Brad? What's old?
I don't know. I guess it's relative, right? Like older than me, but if I'm 47, you might be 48. You're still older than me. So.
That's such a, you know what? I am honored to be a fun old person. At least you put fun in front of old. Because if I just become an old person, then I'm just done. I'm done.
No, definitely.
All right, good. Well, one of the things I pride myself on is running full steam because I've got really good energy regardless of how old I am becoming. And I want to talk about that with you today because one of your favorite topics, and I know you've got a ton of them, is how our adrenals are functioning and the relationship to caffeine. So I'm going to tell you, I'm really proud. I wake up in the morning. There is never a cup of coffee. I don't think I've ever had a Red Bull ever. They're kind of gross, aren't they? They're kind of, Red Bull's kind of gross. I hope nobody from that company is listening. But let's just, I don't know, why are you so passionate about adrenal glands and caffeine?
I think I'm passionate about it because I just see it so much in clinical practice. I see it in my family and my friends. People are burned out. They get low testosterone. They get perimenopause. It used to be, you get perimenopause a couple years before menopause. Now it's 10, 15 years before menopause. They're saying even some people are like, at 25, I feel like I have perimenopausal symptoms. I'm like, well, that's actually a sign of hormonal weakness or hormonal imbalance. And it triggers people to say, like, you're hormonally weak. But most of the Americans walking around are hormonally weak. They're metabolically unwell. They're not in great shape. And their hormones on lab testing are also not up to par. I mean, men in particular, their testosterone and sperm count levels are half of what they were a few decades ago. So we clearly have a problem. We're clearly all needing some adrenal and hormonal support. And I think that's why I say it's like 80, 90% of my patients come in with some degree of hormonal imbalance. So it's just educating on how to help those people.
So before they come in, right, because you don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, my testosterone is low, because most of us aren't measuring it ourselves. What are some of the most common and not so common symptoms that both men and women are experiencing to clue them in to think, oh, I better get this tested?
Yeah. I think most common things are craving salt or sugar, lack of sex or libido, lack of morning erections for men. And I also see craving drugs. So they crave salt, they crave sugar, and they crave different drugs, whether it's caffeine or other stimulants, or they're looking for like the next best thing, or they're looking for something to sedate themselves at night. So they're looking to calm their anxiety, or they're looking for alcohol or CBD or THC or something at bedtime to help them fall back asleep.
So nobody was born with a caffeine deficiency, huh?
I guess not, or born with a Tylenol deficiency.
Right. Or both.
Or both, yeah.
Or
I mean,
both.
Originally, caffeine was meant for basically hallucinating and connecting to spirits. Like in ceremonies in Africa, they originally used caffeine ceremonially on very rare occasion and mega doses to basically connect to source. We've kind of come a far way from that.
And now how are we using it?
Now we're using it to, offer for free to employees at major corporations so that people can work forever.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. Yeah.
Crazy. So are there certain levels of caffeine that would you say are safe or acceptable, or is all caffeine bad?
It really depends on the person. In general, though, I'd say, I like to have my patients at under 50 milligrams a day, which is pretty low. It's like half a cup of coffee. I think if you're living in Costa Rica and you're retired and you're outside all the time and you're moving your body, you can tolerate a cup or two a day. Like if you're an Italian and you're having espresso and you're going for a 2-hour walk afterwards and you're outdoors, you can tolerate more because your nervous system is not in a low level of fight or flight adrenal stress all the time. Your adrenaline is running, which is where adrenaline connects. But I think for most Americans, if they're having more than 50 milligrams or half a cup of coffee a day, which is about 100, it's really hard to get their hormonal system back up to snuff. Even if they're taking 20 supplements and herbs and all the adaptogens and all the glandulars and all the things, that's my baseline. Is like, if I'm going to help you with your adrenal or your thyroid or your sex hormones, I need you to be on no minimum of 0, maximum of 50 milligrams of caffeine a day.
Now, what if I do it through decaffeinated coffee? Is that better?
That is better. Yeah, it's definitely better. Decaffeinated coffees are a little bit black market, though. Sometimes they're supposed to have like less than 3% of caffeine, but a lot of them still have 10% or more of caffeine in it. So I actually sell a decaf coffee for my patients because I took them off of caffeine so often. I had to make my own decaffeinated coffee and just gift it to my patients. Be like, here, you don't know what to do? Make this. It's delicious. If you don't like it, you're an addict, and come back and let me know how it goes.
That's great. What's the name of the coffee?
It's, what is it? I have it on our website, actually. Let me find. We had a few different ones. We had a taper down coffee where we basically had like 100%, 50% caffeinated. Now we call it Health Nut Organic Decaf Coffee. That's Swiss water processed. There's no chemicals in it.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Because I'm sure there's people out there going like, I'd love to give up caffeine, but the headaches, right? The mood changes, right? It's hard to come off caffeine.
It's very hard. That's part of why I started realizing it was an issue for myself personally. I used to be a barista in high school, and I was doing those old espresso machines where, if you don't know, they used to pour 2 shots every time. So even if you ordered a drink that had 3 shots, you'd pour 4 shots. And so all the extras, the baristas would pour in their own cup and drink. So I was having like 12 to 20 shots of espresso a day. which
Oh my
was
goodness.
wrecked my adrenals. And then when I stopped having caffeine, I also get massive headaches and usually existential dread to go along with it. And was my wake up call. But that's part of why I created the decaf coffee, was to help get people off. And I usually have to have them taper off over a week or two so they don't go into existential dread.
Right. Now, let's, I think it's interesting as clinicians, and I know a lot of our audience are clinicians, but we have a lot of people who listen that don't speak medical jargon. Let's bring it back down to what is the actual function of the adrenals for us through life?
So the adrenals regulate a lot of different things. I say the 4S hormones: salt, sex, sugar, and stress hormones. Salt because of aldosterone, which is basically regulating your blood pressure. Sex hormones because they create DHEAS, which is a precursor for other hormones like other sex hormones that you need for a healthy libido. Stress hormones, adrenaline, adrenal, some of the epinephrine, norepinephrine, and things like that, to not overcomplicate it. So salt, sex, sugar, and stress. And sugar, which is cortisol regulation, which is also, people know, excess cortisol can create weight gain and stress people out. But deficiency of cortisol also makes people quite tired.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to salt. I grew up in an era where salt was evil. We were told not to consume it, right? And then you go to science class and you learn about the sodium potassium pump that you swear you will never use ever again, that we use every single day, and how important that regulation is. Where do you think we went wrong with recommending no salt to now the importance of utilizing salt in a correct way?
I think we went wrong by making things too black and white. People say cholesterol is bad. Let's lower cholesterol to 0. Well, if your cholesterol is below 100, you're probably dead. And same thing with salt. It's like you need sodium to stay alive. If you don't have sodium, the sodium potassium pump can't work and you're dead. So I think it's the in between. It's not that salt is all bad or all good. It's just that we were getting a lot of really synthetic, processed, iodized, bleached salt that wasn't super healthy, and that was creating problems, versus salt that's healthier, that has a broad spectrum of minerals, whether it's Celtic sea salt or earth-based salts. And I think it's really more about balancing the salt and sodium in salt with potassium, with magnesium, with other trace minerals, and hydrating, right? There's a reason why when you have a lot of salty popcorn, you crave water for a while afterwards. It's because you need that to balance that out. So if you're having more salt, you want to have more fluid balance and hydration as well.
So how important is it, in your opinion, to test to make sure that these levels are perfect versus guessing how much water we really need or how much salt we should take in?
Extremely important. I don't know if it was probably you or someone else who taught me way back in the day, but they always said if you're not testing, you're guessing. I don't know if that's a Dabsy thing or a Cindy thing, but it's so important.
I don't want to take credit for it. It's not a Cindy thing. I think it was a Dr. Jack Kessinger thing, actually, but it's definitely a Dabsy thing.
Definitely a Dabsy thing, yeah. So it's in the notes, I'm sure, that you were teaching too. Everyone kind of cross-pollinates. It's hard to remember where all these traits and sayings come from. But I really think if you're not testing, you're guessing. So it's much better to have certainty and confidence and know, what are my kidney adrenal system doing and what does my sodium level look like on lab testing.
Okay, great. Yeah, we joke in the office that the umbrella girl is evil, the Morton's umbrella girl, that we should stay away from, which isn't very nice. And you know what? It's funny. And this goes back a lot of years, so I'm not going to tell the story exactly correctly, but I had a patient who came in that told me that it was like her best friend that they actually modeled the girl holding the umbrella after. And I felt terrible that I said she was evil. And I didn't mean it, in the literal sense. It was more about the caking agents and, the way they manufacture that salt versus the girl on the front.
Well, what about the iodine in the salt? Isn't that healthy, Dr. Cindy?
Right. Oh, let's go there for a second. So let me ask you this question. So, we live in the Midwest, right? You're north side of Chicago. I'm south side of Chicago, and this is known as the goiter belt, right? Like where everybody's having issues with thyroid and we all need iodine. What's your take on that? Because I'm not so sure I buy into the fact that we all need iodine.
I think we need iodine once in a while, but maybe not all the time. Like we have stores of iodine in our tissue, just like all the fat soluble vitamins store in our tissue. Just like you can have a 24-hour fast and survive, I think you can have a 24-hour period without all of your daily recommended vitamins. There's a lot of patients who come in who get so scared from social media where they're like, I need all my multivitamin every day or else I'm not going to feel good. And I think our bodies weren't designed that way in hunter-gatherer times. In the same way, iodine is a great nutrient, but I don't think our bodies necessarily need the 100% daily value all the time to survive. I've had patients sometimes even take a higher dose once a month or a couple times a year, and their thyroid function does just fine.
That's pretty cool and really important, right? Because I think you brought up something really interesting. We're all on social media and it can be a very important tool, but it also can be a very misleading tool when it's that all or nothing that we present to patients, right?
Yeah, 100%. The all or nothing thinking is very tricky. And I think podcasts are the way to kind of break through that because you get to a little more complexity.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So give me a couple key things that people can do to support their adrenal glands in a healthy way, even if they're not testing.
Even if they're not testing, try to limit your caffeine. My joke is don't do your drugs every day, do them with a purpose. So whether it's caffeine or something else, take a break. Like, don't be super addicted. If you're physically needing the caffeine for energy or joy or fun or enthusiasm or motivation, that's a red flag. So I think the number one thing is to stop drinking caffeine on a daily basis, or at least get down to the under 50 milligrams or a half a cup of coffee a day, or go to something a little bit more soothing, whether it's dark chocolate or green tea, etc. So cut that out. It's kind of like when someone's asking to heal their liver, but they're still having a fifth of whiskey. That's the equivalent when people are worrying about adrenals and caffeine. So got to cut that out as much as possible. And then I really like just getting enough rest. So I force my patients to take 9 hours a day of rest, which up to 15 hours a day, and that includes sleep. So even if they're not able to sleep for more than 6 hours, they need an additional couple hours of the day to be restful. So the way they eat could be restful. The way they go for their morning walk could be restful, or it could be busy on their phone, scrolling around, stressed out on the news. So I think making sure they're having moments of calm and sleeping well is also crucially important. From a supplemental standpoint, I usually find that a B complex, some magnesium, a little vitamin D, and some adrenal glandulars or adaptogens are kind of my big hitters for adrenals too. What
are your favorite adaptogens?
Oh, that's such a hard question. Favorite adaptogens? It really depends if someone's more wired or tired. I really like the ashwagandha complex from MediHerb and Standard Process, partially because ashwagandha is not the main ingredient, but they put in some, a little bit of ginseng. I believe they put in some licorice as well, but it's much more of a soothing blend, because I find most people are not just tired, they're not just wired, they're wired and tired. So that one kind of mitigates both of those patterns.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to recommend in the middle of the night? So we've got patients, right, a lot of times that can sleep and they can get 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, but it's always interrupted, right? They wake up, they claim they wake up because they have to go to the bathroom. And as you know, I challenge that theory. I think they go to the bathroom because they woke up. But how do you help people break that cycle if it's interrupted sleep?
One thing is to not go to the bathroom, to hold it, because then that kind of helps break the habit. They can also, a lot of times I'll give people glycine and inositol before bed, which helps regulate the blood sugar a little better and helps them stay asleep. I also find that there's something called cognitive shuffling, which helps quite a bit, which helps them to fall back asleep. Because a lot of people feel like they need to take something or take melatonin in order to fall asleep the first time or to fall back asleep. But I'll have them do cognitive shuffling where they take a word, let's like pick an animal, maybe it's giraffe or camel. And if it was camel, you take CAMEL, take each letter, and you think of as many things as you can that start with the letter C until you run out of things, as many as you can that start with the letter A until you run out of ideas. And then usually before you even get to the E or L of camel, you're falling asleep because you're so bored. Oh. So that's one trick that actually is science-based that works. It's drug-free. I also get a lot of overthinkers for whatever reason. So I'll have them do an Eisenhower matrix. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like a little 4-quadrant you do on a piece of paper, which is either things that are urgent or important, or not urgent and important, or not important, not urgent, or not urgent, not important. And so I have them basically do their to-do list before bed, because then they can let it go and let it get out of their mind before they fall asleep. Because a lot of people wake up thinking about what they have to do the next day. So that also helps a lot.
I love the recommendations, but I am going to tell you, Dr. Campbell, that if I get any emails of people who are now wetting the bed because you suggested holding it,
yeah,
I'm sending them your way for a consult.
Please do. I'll send them some free diapers.
Okay. I hope they're branded with, your name on it so that they know how to find you.
Right.
Oh my gosh, isn't that crazy? I've never truly, in all the years of doing this, I've never had anybody recommend holding it. I wonder how that would go. I'd love some feedback on that. So anybody out there that's going to try it.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it works because they'll say I go to pee, but I only pee just a little bit. So I was like, well, what happens if you get up, maybe get out of bed, go back to sleep and don't pee? And then if you really have to pee, go if you feel a strong urgency. But a lot of them get up and they just pee because they think they have to.
Right.
But it gets their brain out of that cycle.
I know. I always joke and I overshare, a tad bit. Okay, maybe more often than a tad bit. But, I always joke that I can drink a full bottle of water before I lay down and go to sleep and I don't wet the bed and I don't get up in the middle of the night to go. So clearly our bladders are designed to hold the urine.
Right.
Until we get up in the morning. Right. And some of us are holding it unnecessarily during the day as well because we don't want to go in public places or we're too busy. Right.
Yeah.
We're too busy. All right. So you said something really interesting about, drugs. And we all know that caffeine is a drug. But you also have said something really interesting I want to dive into. And that is there is a real reason to be sober and there's reasons not to be. And I'm intrigued, right? I want permission not to be sober. So tell me what you mean by that.
I think the main reason to be sober on an existential level is to figure out who you actually are, right? It's sort of takes all of the fog away so you can figure out how healthy am I? It's sort of like when people are on 30 supplements and herbs and things, you don't know what's happening, what's working, what's not working, what your medication is doing. If you're able to be alive without medication or without supplementation, sometimes it's nice to be off of it just to see where is my true baseline? And so a lot of people don't know who they are without their caffeine in the morning. They don't know who they are without their glass of wine or their 3 bottles of wine at night kind of thing. So it really helps you find yourself because I think a lot of people are covering up their emotional stress and kind of numbing out or using escapism through self-medicating with legal drugs or illegal drugs sometimes. Mm-hmm. And they're not able to find their own self, their own joy, their own purpose and passion.
So what's a really good technique in your opinion if that's exactly what I'm doing, right? I'm waking up with my cup of coffee because, there are people who say don't even talk to me until I've had my cup of coffee, right? Or to your point, let's say ending a day with a cocktail because it's been stressful. I do think there's a huge difference between enjoying the cocktail and needing the cocktail or thinking you need the cocktail, right? So what are some good techniques that you teach your clients to manage some of those things without them the use of drugs, thinking it's a need versus a want?
Yeah. I think it depends. I sort of question my patients on how stubborn or how hard-headed they are because some people are very stubborn. They're very all or nothing and they're able to just cut it out. And they're like, sure, I can cut out anything, no problem. Other people need a little more hand-holding or a crutch. So if they do, I'll get them go from, fully caffeinated to 50% caffeinated. One of my main tricks for caffeine is to go to half calf or less and just double the amount because it's still less stimulating. So when people start to decrease from 100% caffeinated to 50%, even if they have to drink double, it doesn't quite affect them the same way. So even if they have 10% caffeinated coffee, but they're having 10 cups instead of 1, it still doesn't have that same quite as addicting component. So I'll have them dilute things a bit. And then I'll usually have them go from coffee to black or green tea and then just a dark chocolate or something like that. That also seems to help because the teas generally are less stimulating than the coffee as far as that goes. And other crutches as well. So I'll have people, up their adaptogens or an adrenal glandular or some ashwagandha or rhodiola or ginseng instead to kind of supplant that. If they have a little ADD, I really like the Qualia supplement. They have a caffeine-free Qualia Mind supplement, which is really good for patients as well. It's just a mega dose of different nootropics to give them brain energy. Then at night, I'll often have people kind of go to either an NA version of what they're drinking. There's one called GRUVI Groovy, which is an NA wine, which is actually pretty good. Or other mocktails, because now mocktails are the most trending thing in the alcohol industry. So there's a million different mocktails out there they can find at Whole Foods or other places and go use that instead.
Right. And they're on menus now too, right? You go out to eat and there's a whole list of mocktails to pick from. So it looks like you're having a cocktail for those that are concerned about that social, right? The social ramification of, oh, you're drinking water again, which I don't know why that's a bad thing, but it seems to be in some social circles.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about all the different drinks, though, that are on the market, as the solution for alcohol? They've got a lot of adaptogens. Is there a way to overuse those?
Like, people can definitely be overusing some of the mocktails or other alternatives out there. Some of them are not super clean. They might have artificial flavors or natural flavors or a bunch of preservatives or fake junk in it. So it's generally, to me, less toxic than alcohol. So I think most of the mocktails are better, but still not healthy. So ideally, they would create their own or find healthier versions of things. Like, there's one doesn't have natural flavors. It's called Gia, Ghia, which is more of a bitter version, but it's a little bit of a healthier mocktail, which can be nice for people. But they do have to be careful of overdosing on adaptogens too, because some people will seek that stimulation and they'll have an energy drink that's decaf, but there's so many uppers in it that they're still getting that adrenaline surge.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about some of these mushroom complexes, right? They're making coffees out of mushrooms. There's drinks out of mushrooms. What's your take on that to support the adrenals?
I think we're all going to turn into mushrooms here pretty soon. Whether we die and the earth eats us into its own fungus or whatever it is, like, some of us are 50% mushroom with how much mushrooms they're consuming. I think in general, they're pretty healthy. I'm pretty pro mushroom overall. I do think you have to be careful about quality control and all of that for all the normal supplement issues that are out there. But I think in general, it's healthier. But I have seen high doses of some of the ones, like, what's the liver-based one? I'm trying to think of the mushroom that starts with like an R.
Reishi?
Yes. I've seen reishi or like poor qualities of reishi mess with people's livers at times. So you do have to be a little bit careful. Cordyceps is a good caffeine alternative because it also stimulates ATP, which is cellular energy in the brain. So there are, for sure, good mushrooms out there. You just want to be careful not to overdose on it and to get good quality sources.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go back. We started to touch on hormones and we skirted around that subject, which I think is a really tough one for people. There's so much going on in the world today with utilizing prescription drugs and sometimes very inappropriately in order to get weight down. And cortisol from the adrenals happens to be just one of those nasty hormones, right, that we're constantly fighting. So dive in a little bit for me, for both men and women that are struggling with weight. It's that belly fat, right? The junk under the arms and inside the legs that we never had when we were not old, Dr. Brad Campbell.
Right.
And now that we are old, we struggle with. How can we really approach that, in your opinion, safer than, the quick fix of the injection to drop, 20 pounds in a week?
Like, how do you approach the cortisol belly or managing excess cortisol? I want to flip back and be like, what are your favorite things? Because I'm like, I want to learn from Cindy. This is a great question.
Oh, look at how you see it's this. I wanted to be the students instead of the teacher. And now you're going to flip that back, I don't know. I think, okay, so I'll share a couple of my favorites. One that I actually love is a product called phosphatidylserine, which drives down the cortisol pretty dramatically, right? Without causing the crash. And that can help bring it down. I also think it's a question of how we continue to feed it, right? And it's the stress that continues to feed that elevated cortisol level. So it's a lot more work than just popping a pill, but it's, to your point, getting that rest. And it's not just sleep. It's really focusing on how do we create a calm within our body that we're not stimulating that fight or flight mechanism in which that cortisol jumps up and stays up, right? So it's really a lot more lifestyle. One of the things that I find, see, now it's becoming the Dr. Brad Campbell's interviewing Dr. Cindy show.
I'm learning too.
One of the things that I find really fascinating is people don't understand the difference between how stress can be good or bad, right? So take exercise, for example. I've got marathon runners that think they're doing something great for their body, and yet because of the excessive nature of their training, can actually increase that cortisol level that now we're storing in the body. And while you're 20 running a marathon nice and lean, you're now 40 running a marathon and not so lean. It's sometimes having to recognize that the things that we used in a good way are now actually very detrimental, right?
For sure.
I'm a workaholic. I love to work. I work 7 days a week. I don't have a Monday. Does that elevate the stress and the cortisol? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the lifestyle over decades is what's really gotten a lot of us into more trouble with that elevated cortisol. And then people like you and me, and even in the pharmaceutical industry, we're so we're working so hard to try to find that one magic pill, that quick fix to change that cortisol level. And I almost believe it's a little bit more in our lifestyle than it is in the pills.
Yeah. And the mindset plays a big role too. Like if stress is defined as adapting to change, then any major change could be stressful. Like you said, working out is a stress, but it could be a really good or a bad stress. Like if I was to take, one of our family members and hold a gun to their head and say, march for 26 miles, like that would be one of the most stressful things they've ever done. But then if you say like, hey, pay me $900 to run the Chicago or Boston Marathon, people would line up and pay tons of money to do that exact same experience with a very different mental perception of how that went. So I think we can have eustress or distress, and how we perceive what's happening in our life makes a big difference and can lower the cortisol response. But like you said, there is still an element of no matter how much gratitude you have going to McDonald's, eating, 5 McGriddles, it's still going to have an impact on your body in a biochemical way. Lots of overtraining and marathon running is still going to have a negative impact, breaking down the body over time. But I think, it's really interesting to see how some people view certain things as extremely stressful and other people, it's their favorite thing.
Right. Like I feed off of chaos. I actually love chaos, but I also recognize where that becomes, there's a boundary of that, right? Where at some point now it becomes, here's the emotional breakdown. Here's the physical breakdown. Here's that melting point that you just don't want to ever cross over. And I think a lot of people have trouble finding that and understanding that balance.
Yeah.
Right.
It's tricky, but that's what we do as practitioners. You help people kind of navigate that realm.
Yeah. What's your favorite patient? What do they look like? And I don't mean physically look like, but what challenges you and feeds your soul when somebody walks into the office for you to help them?
My favorite one is probably the ones that have no clue what's going on. They have like zero self-awareness. And so they just get to have a epiphany after epiphany after epiphany. Like I had one who had been doing therapy for 30 years and was extremely stressed out, had tons of anxiety, tons of IBS, like her liver was in the gutter, adrenals were tanked, super menopausal signs and symptoms, super burnt out running her own business, and thought they knew how to eat, but really had no idea what true healthy was, were scared of cholesterol and fat, scared of sodium. They're almost like completely the opposite thought process. So my favorite is taking someone who has the exact opposite thought process as someone like you and me and helping them slowly like retrain and relearn how to be healthy. And now that same patient, like a year after they started, is completely different, off all their meds. They don't have anxiety, OCD anymore. They're not burnt out. They're actually happy and loving life. They don't have depression anymore. And they've learned how to cook. They've learned how to move their body. They've learned how to process their feelings and emotions. And their life is just like a complete 180.
Yeah. And I think that's hard. Sometimes we just don't get out of our own way.
It's true. Yeah.
And that's really hard to overcome. What is the toughest thing you face in practice, do you think, as a clinician that you're up against in the world, help people get well?
The toughest thing, I think, has to be maybe children. I feel like
that wasn't the answer I was expecting.
I know
a characteristic of somebody.
I was going to say like fatty liver disease is really, takes time and slow, and it's kind of painful to process at the fatty liver. But I do think that when parents have children and the children are stressed, that's one of the hardest things is you have to treat the whole family. So a lot of times it's the kid that's actually creating the parents' cortisol and stress to go up. So I have to treat the kid and the parent at the same time.
It's interesting. Yeah. And sometimes we see the opposite. Sometimes we see children come in and we can tell that, the manic parent sitting next to them is actually part of the underlying issue for the kids as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I love how you threw kids under the bus. That was awesome.
No.
Always the kids that are causing the problem, but
right.
we can fix everybody, right? With the right tools and the right education, I think we can, maybe not fix everybody, but certainly lead them on a path for betterment.
Oh, definitely.
Truly in health. All right. So adrenals are really fun. Give me one other topic you just love to address with patients. If it's not adrenal health, what would it be?
It's not adrenal health. Talked about stress. Probably people who don't realize how much their attachment style impacts their relationship with their doctor.
Explain that a little bit.
So if you don't know about attachment styles, there's basically three. It's either anxious, avoidant, or secure. And so a lot of people will come in not knowing their attachment style, but they relate to their doctor in the same way you would relate to a parent or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner. And so if you're, especially the avoidant people, they're going to inherently, when they get stressed, they're going to run away or retreat or avoid the conflict. Whereas the anxious person is going to they're going to be like wanting to run a bunch of labs, make sure they're okay, constantly like calling the doctor for more, make them feel more at ease. And the secure people are fine. They usually don't even come into the doctor, right? They're like, I'm fine. I'm healthy. Like I might have this cancer thing on my face, but like, no worries. My parents love me. So I think like the fact that like that impacts the way the relationship people have with their doctor is really big. And so when I can bring awareness to that and be like, look, if you have a more of an anxious attachment style, that means this is how we're going to have to work together for you to start to heal and recover and take more responsibility and feel more secure in your health journey. And especially with the avoidant people, if they know that they're a little anxious, avoidant, or fully avoidant, I'm like, okay, I'm going to say some things. It might offend you. It's going to be really hard and you might run away for a bit, but then once you're ready, come back and we'll deal with it, kind of thing.
I love that. That's so important. I think a lot of times as practitioners, people just walk in, we make a recommendation, we expect them to follow it, but it's about meeting the patient where they're at, right? And through those different styles, you can really meet them where they're at in order to understand the motivation or the lack of motivation in order to get well. Dr. Brad Campbell, this has been absolutely fantastic. We are going to take a quick break, but I hope you will stick around because we're going to do some rapid fire questions just for fun. So those of you, we're going to take just a minute here, a couple deep cleansing breaths, close your eyes. If you fall asleep, this is being recorded so you can pick it up where we left off. If you do happen to do that right as you're being restful, we are going to be right back with Dr. Brad Campbell. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. We are back wide-eyed. I did not have a sip of coffee. I did have some hydration, a little bit of water for everybody watching, right? No sodium in there, though, Dr. Campbell. There was no salt in my water, just a little bit of water. But we're back, and we're super excited to have you doing some rapid-fire questions. You ready?
All ready.
All right, here we go. If you were the ruler of the universe and somebody needed to drive your chariot around, and it was somebody you did not know and have never met, who would you pick?
Someone I did not know and never. Who would drive my chariot around?
Yes, as the ruler of the universe.
The Clydesdale horses from Budweiser commercials.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And I love that I asked you a who, and you kind of went more with like a what.
Yeah, I was like, I just kept thinking of animals. I was like, I don't know, elephants. Nope, Clydesdales.
I love it, and they're beautiful. So I think that's a great pick. What is one article of clothing you wish you never had to wear ever again?
One article of clothing. Any type of sweater.
You're not an ugly Christmas sweater kind of guy?
I run hot, so I can't. It's just like a sauna and a clothing. Not a fan.
No sweaters. Okay, so no Christmas time, no gifts for Dr. Brad Campbell of any sort of sweater for those of you that love him and are listening. That's perfect. If you could domesticate any animal on the planet to make it your house pet, what would you pick?
Ooh, a great horned owl.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Why? What's the attraction to an owl?
Just always loved owls as a kid. I actually have a stuffed owl over there in the corner that my grandmother found at a garage sale one day that was hit. It's technically illegal, I think, to own a bird of prey. So this is all theoretical if any government agencies are listening. But just always loved owls. Used to go actually out in the forest group as a kid and like take out a big spotlight and find them in the forest preserve too.
Wow. We'll make sure that if anybody comes after you, we just delete this podcast and we'll just
Right.
pretend like it never happened. So you just
Right.
let us know if they're knocking on the door. That is all good. If you could change the color of the ocean from bluish, greenish, depending on where you live, what color would you make it?
Could I say clear?
Yeah?
That'd be sweet. I think clear would be awesome. Just to be able to like see all the way through would be amazing.
No need to scuba dive anymore.
Right. Yeah.
We could take that away. You know what? I'm actually on board because I don't think I could ever. Do you scuba dive?
No.
I don't either. So I would actually love that because I'm never going to. It scares me too much. All right, Dr. Campbell, what is your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Favorite thing, getting to learn from you a little bit. I'm going to flip the question back on you. Reminder of how good phosphatidylserine is.
Okay, you got it. Put that back into practice. All right, I love it. How can everybody get a hold of you, find you, reach you, follow you?
It's drbradleycampbell.com or Dr. Bradley Campbell, Dr. Bradley Campbell on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Okay. Everybody, please check him out. He puts out a lot of great information. Yes, sometimes the teacher does become the student. My favorite thing was actually, I love this. Like it's full circle, right? We come around, we get back together years later. I think it's been, a good 12-ish years since you were in the classroom, and now I get to learn from you. And it is truly my privilege to be able to do that. I am Dr. Cindy. If you want to follow more of what we are doing here, please check us out at drcindyspeaks.com. or shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you at hello@drcindyspeaks. Please buy the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. Oh, look at that. And Brad's got his notebook that we send out. So he's taking good notes from today's podcast. Anything that you've learned, we'd love to hear from you. Please share it. Make sure you like and follow us. And at the end of the day, please check out Dr. Brad Campbell because he is a wealth of knowledge. And he loves the Instagram page more than I do. So you're going to get a whole lot more following him, even though you're going to follow both of us. Anyway, Brad, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I can't wait to see what's next. Thank you so much for being part of today's podcast. I hope that it has left all of you positively altered.